have found the Genesis frequency. This is Dr. Stephen J. Kosmyna welcoming you in to another episode of a show that focuses on your whole life prosperity and success. Whole life prosperity and success by cooperating with the universal laws that are available to each and every one of us. This is Quantum Leap Goal Achievement, radical personal transformation, whole life prosperity and success. Now, stay tuned for another exciting episode that'll move the needle in your life from where you are now to where you want to be.
Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, whatever time of day it may be, wherever you are in the world. When you hit that play button, thank you for taking the time to listen in. This is Dr. Cause and Effect, Dr. Stephen J. Kosmyna coming at you with another episode of the Genesis Frequency, a show all about personal development, professional development, spiritual development, leadership development, just showing up every day as a better version of ourselves, taking what I have studied and learned and applied in my life to transform my life from what it once was, which wasn't a whole heck of a lot, into what it is today, sharing that with you. Tremendous value here. Do not place little or no value on that which you get for free when it comes to this show, because there's tremendous value offered to you each and every week. I suggest that you listen to these episodes over and over again several times. If you're moving about, you're exercising, you're walking, you're riding your bike, you're out and about, you're in your car, you're driving, that's great. Listen again when you have time to make some notes, take out a notepad and just jot down the aha moments, the light bulb going off, and take out what you can right away apply to your life and take action on. That's the key, really. I mean, I can talk all day long, but unless you take this and apply it to your life, your situation, your circumstances, the events and the challenges that you're going through, it's not gonna do a lot. I mean, it'll be in there just kind of, in consciousness somewhere, stored somewhere. But we got to take action on it. So it's the repetition that causes retention, and then the application and action that starts to facilitate and foster the transformation. So let's dive in today. We're looking at part 3 here today of, we call them soft skills, but really, I think there could be a better name for soft skills because they're really essential skills we need to look at, not take for granted, and work to develop every day alongside of everything else we're working on, alongside of the goals we're working to achieve in our lives. Because make no mistake about it, this program, the underlying nature of all of this is quantum leap goal achievement, moving ourselves, me helping you to move from where you are to where you want to be as an individual, as an entrepreneur, as a key member of your team within your workplace, working on your vocation, working on developing your leadership skills for your organization, for your nonprofit, for your ministry, for your corporation, whatever it is, whatever it is, these apply. I talk about principles that need to be worked on, developed so that we are effective and move into a stage of growth every day of our lives, move into a new stage of growth, I should say, and made aware of what we need to work on through the process of observation, noticing what we're noticing, and just saying, hey man, I do want more. I do want to show up as a better version of myself because you know what? Your potential is infinite. And most people move through life unconsciously and they don't even scratch the surface of their potential. Don't let that be you. So welcome back in. We're talking about the personal disciplines that sustain success. Yes, they're soft skills, I guess, but essential skills, okay? And today we're going to wrap up our three-part leadership series on what I've been calling the human side of leadership. So in episode 1, you can go back, you can find it on the website or wherever you get your podcasts. The website, of course, is thegenesisfrequency.com. But in episode 1, we explored the inner foundation, emotional intelligence, empathy, and the qualities that shape how we relate to people. Then in episode 2, we talked about communication, how great leaders listen, build trust, and create alignment within teams. And today we're going to bring it all together because insight alone, again, is not enough. Understanding is not enough. We can grasp it and say, yeah, I get that. That makes sense. I'm picking up what you're throwing down, right? But even inspiration is not enough. What ultimately determines success in leadership and in life is consistent behavior. And consistent behavior is built on personal discipline. And I want to point out that, as a franchisee, one of the things that I do, I'm a certified Proctor Gallagher consultant, trained with Bob Proctor and several other prosperity teachers along the way. But I'm really proud of the material we facilitate as franchisees of Leadership Management International. I've been over 65 years in business in over 100 countries around the world in 32, 33 different languages. But this is the key right here, what I'm talking about, is that we get results because we impact at the level of behavior. And that's really what we want to do. Consistent behavior built on personal discipline. That's what this is all about. And that's all the work we do is all about that. So let's look at the bridge between, I was talking about potential a little bit and scratching the surface there. Let's talk about that potential, making that bridge from potential to performance. Because every leader has potential. Every individual has potential. Every person has ideas. Every organization has goals, right? But there's always a gap between what we know and what we actually do. In the premier material I facilitate with the Procter Gallagher organization, we spend a lot of time on this knowing doing gap. And this gap, it's not closed by talent. It's not closed by intention. It's closed by discipline. Discipline is what turns growth into results. Discipline's what turns awareness into action. And discipline's what transforms a good leader into a great one. And whether you have a whole team of people or just you as a team of one, you're a leader. And you want to develop these leadership skills, these leadership foundational tools and elements. And today we're going to explore the personal disciplines that sustain long term success. Because isn't that what we want? We don't want the flash in the pan success, right? So we want to look at the problem solving mindset. So let's begin there with one of the most important leadership disciplines, the ability to solve problems effectively, right? That's why we've perhaps moved into this role. And even if we're just that team of one working on our own leadership skills and our leadership development, leading our own lives, we still want to face the challenges and the problems and solve them effectively. Because you know what happens is most people react to problems emotionally. We talk a lot about reacting instead of being responsive, right? But most people react. They get frustrated. They right away look for someone to blame. Boy, do we see this all the time. Corporations, governments, right? Gotta blame somebody. Somebody's gonna pay. They focus on symptoms rather than causes. And I'm not a medical doctor. I am a metaphysician. So I look to cause and effect. So many focus on symptoms rather than causes, but great leaders approach problems differently. They begin by asking, "Hey, what's really going on here? What's the underlying nature of this thing that's been festering or we're just noticing now? What's going on here?" Because one of the key principles of effective problem solving is this: you cannot solve a problem if you don't clearly define it. A lot of people know, yeah, there's a problem here, but it's not defined. Often what we call the problem is really just a surface issue, a symptom. And if we try to fix symptoms without understanding root causes, well, we end up in cycles of repeated frustration. Now, disciplined leaders, they slow down a little bit. They define the problem clearly. They explore alternatives. They evaluate options and then they act. And here's the deeper truth in all this: every problem carries within it the seed of a solution. You've probably heard that before. You've seen it in Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill. Within every adversity is the seed of equivalent or greater benefit. I paraphrasing because I'm just doing that up at the top of my head, but it's really true, and we find that in Chinese philosophy. You know that crisis is really um, opportunity, the way it is written. So every problem carries with it the seed of the solution, but it's only if we approach it with clarity, with a sense of clarity, with a sense of poise, instead of reactivity. So let's talk about the discipline of time. And this is something that I think every leader wrestles with: time. And I'm rushing through these, but I want you to know, and I'm really excited, especially talking about time. And I'm inserting this here so I can keep myself moving along. I just got some bullet points I'm speaking from, but in just a couple of weeks, and as you hear this, it's approaching. I think we're going into the third week in March, something like that. But we're going to be focusing on time. What we call it now, we used to call it time management, but we're calling it priority management because we juggle so much of our time, right? And so much of our time is being pulled at, and we're distracted easily in this day and age you live in. It's not like, I mean, even 20, 30 years ago, where we didn't have the smartphones and the internet and all these rabbit holes we can go down in a blink of an eye. So, what I wanted to say is, in just like 2 weeks, we're rolling out the all new effective personal productivity program. So you want to get in on that. We're not taking every. We got a limited number of seats. There's still plenty. And to listeners to the show, any program, you get um, the discount thing up front. So reach out to me on that, successappointment.com. But the main focus on that program is time, priority management, performance, productivity, problem solving, communication, that kind of thing. So you want to get in on that. It's like a six. I think we do do it over 8 weeks. There's a goal setting and introduction program that we throw in there, and then we have a 6 lesson type program that we meet with every week and get this thing knocked out. Yeah, for sure. You want to be in on that. So back to time, because what do we wrestle with really? And most people I talk to wrestle with this is not having enough of it, feeling pulled in too many directions. And a lot of times that's our own self discipline. But so many of us try to do everything at once or try to do too many things. But here's the truth: time is not the real issue, attention is the issue. Disciplined leaders understand that time must be directed, not managed passively. We have to prioritize. We have to priority manage. And again, we don't do this passively. Gone are the days that it works, and I used to be one of these. Give me a legal pad. I got to list everything I got to do. Everything's on there. And then I'd look at that list and I go, oh, that one will be easy. I'll do that and scratch that one out. That's not a way to do that. That's not effective. It's not efficient. And I tell you what, I can find holes in it all day long because, and maybe you're still doing it now, and I'm not reprimanding you or ridiculing you, but there's a more efficient and effective way to go about your day and to make these quantum leaps that I always talk about. So attention is the issue. And disciplined leaders, they plan. They learn this, how to do this the right way. They prioritize. They become intentional about where their energy goes because when everything feels important, and it is, right? I mean, everything feels important. That's important. That's important. That's important. But, we didn't prioritize. Well, nothing actually gets the focus it deserves because everything is important, but it's still got to be prioritized. And one of the greatest myths in modern productivity is multitasking. Guilty as charged. Trying to do multiple things, though, at once does not make us more effective. It makes us more fragmented, more distracted, less present. Everything we really don't want, everything that is not essential to leadership development and being that good, strong servant leader that we are working to be better at. We don't want to be fragmented. We don't want to be more distracted. We don't want to be less present, fully on, fully in the moment. Disciplined leaders focus on one priority at a time. They create space for meaningful work. They reduce distractions and, if possible, eliminate those distractions altogether. You know what they are. When I first went through the EPP program, my thing was just staying away from the phone because every time, man, that thing would notify, I go to a message, it's down a rabbit hole for me. And I started logging my time, and it was appalling. So, but it's something different for everybody. We gotta be disciplined, work on one priority at a time, reduce the distraction, and in so doing, dramatically, and I mean dramatically, increase their effectiveness. Now, we're going to put on the social media pages later today. I'm going to do a quick episode, a short episode with Tanae that I work with, and we're going to talk a little about. She's doing a talk at a women's conference coming up this coming Tuesday, and we're going to talk about a little bit about this program coming up. And we should be live over on our Facebook page, Success Ocean. You want to go to that Success Ocean, look at Stephen and Tanae. You can find it on Facebook. And we're going to talk about this and get into this a little bit more. Right now, I want to talk about adaptability, letting go of the past. That's another essential discipline for leadership. Adaptability, the ability to change, to adjust, to evolve. And again, this is where many people struggle because we all have a tendency to hold on to the past, to what used to work. I remember companies, I used to be the sales manager, and there were some people that were there for decades. I mean, they'd come right out and say, no, this is how we do it. This is how we always be done. We're not changing a damn thing. Yeah, but it's a new time. It's a new age. There's a more efficient and effective. We're not changing it. I've always done it this way, and I'm not going to change what I'm doing. You can go tell the boss, and they'll tell me I don't have to either. Talk right to the owner. I'm not changing a damn thing. And but we hold on to those things. That doesn't mean that we're growing. It doesn't mean we're becoming more efficient and more effective. We hold on to what's familiar. But leadership requires movement. Growth requires change. It's just a fact of what we're involved in this day-to-day life and living and becoming a better version of ourselves. And and as all this, this particular series, this three-part series I'm doing, is based on a small workshop. It's a day-long workshop, an inexpensive workshop that we do for next to nothing, to introduce people to the work that we do. And in this program, in the training material, it reminds us that many people fall into what is called the good old days mindset. It's right in this program. I was just reminded of that because I love this program. It's really 10 soft skills people need or something like that to develop their leadership potential or something like that. But like I said, it's a day long or 2 half days, and we do this with many organizations that just want us to come in for a day, not a multi-week program. But we see this all the time. The good old days mindset, they romanticize the past. And we hear it all the time. We're getting together live and in person, and just the conversations. Man, I remember when, it's romanticizing the past, resisting new ways of thinking. And so many people become rigid. But disciplined leaders, well, they're going to ask, and we ask a different question. What is required now? They don't cling to what was. They respond to what is. Write that down. They respond to what is. They're flexible in their thinking. They're open in their approach and willing to evolve, because adaptability is not weakness. Adaptability is strength. It really is. Let's talk about the power of self confidence. And remember, I'm going through these, and it looks like I'm shifting gears and changing topics quite fast because this is the third and final episode in this series. And I'm just kind of covering elements of what's in this day long workshop. Reach out. Let's do this. Let's do this together. I think it's like a buck 25 or 125 or something like that. 150. I'm not sure. But reach out, successappointment.com. Let's talk about the power of self confidence. Let's move into another key discipline, self confidence. Not arrogance, not ego playing dominant, but a grounded, steady belief in one's ability to grow, learn, and contribute. That's what you're doing here, right? Hopefully, you're starting your day with these very valuable nutrition for your mind, for mindset, for consciousness. And self-confident leaders, I want to point out, they're not afraid to be wrong. They're not afraid to ask questions. They're not afraid to try something new. Okay? Because their identity is not tied to always being right. That's tying your identity to ego. A disciplined leader is tied to continual growth. And one of the most powerful ways to build confidence is to build others, to empower others. When you encourage others, when you recognize their strength, when you support their growth, when you're taking what you're learning here, applying to your own life and sharing with others, share these podcasts. Share these podcasts at work. Start having mastermind meetings or growth meetings, whatever you want to call them, and play these episodes. Talk about them. There's tremendous value here. When you support their growth, you create an environment where confidence expands for everyone, including yourself. They start to take ownership. You're taking ownership. You got a handle on growth. You're pointing the way and saying, we're moving in this direction. And we're going to develop these essential skills in order to do this in the most efficient and effective way. So let's talk about this, because this is really lifelong learning. This is not one and done. We listen. We brought in a motivation. I hear that all the time. We brought in a motivational speaker. Oh boy, about 3 years ago, they went over a lot of this stuff. Well, what? Don't you take a shower every morning or, every night or whatever? We do this on a regular basis, right? It's contributing to our hygiene. We have to contribute to our leadership hygiene, our personal development hygiene, our professional hygiene. So lifelong learning is really about staying open. And this is another discipline that sustains success. It's the discipline of learning, of staying immersed in in shows and episodes like this, going further, taking the plunge, getting involved in a program, bringing a program into your place of work, to your employer. If you're the decision maker saying, yeah, we're going to do this effective personal productivity program because we all need to get a handle on priority management. I can add days. And I promise you, I guarantee I can add weeks to the productivity of to each individual within your workforce. So we have to pay attention to this discipline of learning, the willingness, I guess, to remain teachable, to listen with an open mind, to receive feedback without defensiveness, and to realize that feedback is not criticism. Feedback is information, it is insight, and it's an opportunity to grow, but only if we're willing to receive it. Disciplined leaders don't assume they've arrived, okay? They don't assume they know everything. They stay curious, they stay open, they continue learning. That's why you always see the very efficient and effective leaders, and especially the servant leaders, say, "Boy, I was working on this, and man, I want to share it with you because it really worked for me, and this is how I applied it in my life and took action on this principle that I listened to and learned more about." And that's what keeps them relevant, effective, and evolving. And that's what I love to do within the programs because almost all of them I facilitate myself or with Tanae. And while we're really encouraged to just facilitate and just simply listen and get your feedback and see how you've responded to the material, we offer to look at those blind spots for you. So I wouldn't say that what we do is coaching. We're still facilitating all of these principles, but we're helping you notice maybe what you're not noticing, what's in the blind spots. So we all want to be relevant, effective, and evolving. How about networking? All right, networking from a value mindset. It's one more powerful discipline. How we relate to others in a broader sense is really what networking is, relating to others in a broader sense. And most people think of networking, and this is why Tanae does more of it than I do, but this is really what has turned me off about networking because most people think of networking as what can I get? And we know that doesn't work in a relationship. If you enter into a relationship with another human being, if it's your significant other, and you go in with what can I get rather than what can I give, you're going to have a problem from day one. But they do. That's what can I get? What opportunity is here for me? But the most effective leaders approach relationships differently. They ask, what can I give? How can I contribute? How can I add value? This shift changes everything. I know in networking environments that I'm perceived much differently. When all I do is I ask about them, I find ways that I might contribute to them. Changes the game. It really makes a shift because when you lead with value, relationships then become authentic. Trust develops naturally and opportunities emerge organically. Networking is not about collecting contacts. It can be that in addition to, but it's about building meaningful connections. And that begins with contribution. Make no mistake about that. Okay, let's bring this all together. I see I am way over on time. So, bringing it all together, the personal disciplines, the ones that we've talked about over the last 3 episodes here, and that I talk about all the time, they're, these disciplines all sustain success and they're not complicated. But they do require intention. They require consistency. They require awareness. Disciplined leaders define problems clearly, focus their time and attention, adapt to change, build confidence in themselves and others, remain open to learning, and lead with value in relationships. That's what today was all about. And over time, these disciplines, they become habits, right? These habits become character, and that character becomes leadership. So I want to leave you with this as we wrap this up today. Success is not something you achieve just once. You know that this is a journey. Success is something you practice daily, day in and day out. You are on the success path, and it's a beautiful, very rewarding path to be on and to stay on, to course correct when needed. That's what I'm all about here. Course correcting as we need it, as we notice and observe where we need to improve. And all of this, it's built in the small decisions, the quiet disciplines, the consistent choices. And when you align your thinking, your behavior, and your intention, you begin to live and lead at a completely different level. This is what I talk about often as shifting the frequency, adjusting the dial, so to speak. You're changing the frequency, you're shifting your vibration. So I want to thank you for listening and hanging in here till the end for this episode of the Genesis Frequency. I want you to remember that leadership is not about perfection. It's about progression. It's about becoming day by day the person you are called to be, to listening to that. What is it? Because it's be, do, have, right? What are you called to be? So we're becoming that. Becoming. Be. Then we do in alignment with being. We have to be it first. We have to build it in consciousness in that image. Because the frequency you hold internally will always shape the results you create externally. So that's going to do it. We're going to say, hey, you've been listening to the Genesis Frequency Podcast with me, Dr. Cause and Effect, Dr. Stephen J. Kosmyna, and I wish for you an infinitely spectacular day. See you next time. God bless you.